Alright, here we are. And if we weren't here now, I'd be up in 5 hours doing this anyways, because I'd have to get it posted at least that far before this game right here. This is the culprit as to why I'm posting this really, really late at night. And there's no reason for me to do a preview just of one game, so I have to do them all together. This is the tradition I started 2 years ago. I was doing previews every single day. I'm trying to think if it was 2 or if it was 3 years ago. I know at some point it became a thing. I did the preview every day, the review every day. It didn't start out that way. It started out as just sort of, here's a fun thing to do, and it turned into every day. So here we are, and here's the game that starts it. New York Rangers in against the New Jersey Devils starts at 1 o'clock Eastern. Thankfully, my wife helped me get these set up because otherwise it would have been even later when I got this started. So while I was doing the treadmill and before we watched Mandalorian, which was while I was setting this up, and I had to watch Mandalorian because I can't avoid spoilers. Baby Yoda. So, yeah, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Pacific. If you're not watching The Mandalorian, watch it. The Rangers, 12-9-3 overall. And this is a key game for them. They're in against the 9-11-4 New Jersey Devils. Now, the first time these teams met was on October 17th. The New Jersey Devils won at home 5-2, so they're at home again. Their next meeting is January 9th at New York, so the Rangers will be at home for the next one. Now, looking over scoring this time, I went with just their totals for the season, and I didn't go by top scorers. Trouba, 24 games, 3 goals, 8 assists. He's done pretty well as a Ranger. Fox, 24 games, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points. Excellent rookie season. This kid's on pace for about 45, 50 points. That's not too bad. Kakko, 22 games, 6 goals, 4 assists, 10 points. There's some panic about his rookie season. You know what? He's still on pace for about 20 goals. That's a pretty good rookie season. Don't expect him to set the world on fire as a teenager. He's adjusting to the league. Buchnevich, 24 games, 5 goals, 14 assists, 19 points. Very good season for him. Howden, 24 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. On the goaltending front, Lundqvist has a .912 save percentage. Georgiev's been confirmed for tomorrow, or I guess for 8 hours from when this posts. .903 save percentage for him. On the New Jersey side, Hall, 24 games, 4 goals, 17 assists, 21 points. We will be watching him over the next couple of months because if they stay below 500, if they remain mediocre or below that, Hall's likely going to be on his way out of town. Zajac, 24 games, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points. Coleman, 24 games, 9 goals, 5 assists, 14 points. One of the most extreme hot and cold players in the league is Coleman. Coleman can go with no points for a while, and then all of a sudden he's on the score sheet every night for a while, and he's like that, very up and down. Subban, 24 games, 2 goals, 3 assists. They need more production from PK Subban, a lot more. When you look at the amount of cap that he eats, he needs to be producing a lot more than he is. Gusev, 21 games, 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 points. And he's having a pretty decent season himself, and hopefully he gets more ice time out of it. Goaltending, no confirmation. I would say probably Blackwood. He has a .900 save percentage, but Louis Domingue a .926 save percentage in limited starts. Not too bad himself. Moving along. Philly. Yes, the Flyers, the Montreal Canadiens. This one starts at 3 o'clock Eastern, or noon Pacific. And Philadelphia, 14-7-5 overall. Montreal, 11-9-5. Now, November 7th, these teams met in Philadelphia. That was an overtime win for the Flyers, 3-2. Their next game will again be in Philadelphia on January 16th. So this is Montreal's chance to win the only meeting between these teams at home this year. Home for Montreal anyways. And be interesting to see what happens with this one. Now scoring on the Flyers, Niskanen, 2 goals, 9 assists in 26 games. He's been a pretty decent pickup. Farabee, 20 games, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points. Pretty good for a rookie. Frost, 6 games, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. Same thing. Voracek, 26 games, 6 goals, 13 assists, 19 points. He's been hot and cold as well. And the guy who I still say stirs the drink in Philly, if he's playing well, they're playing well. Sean Couturier, 26 games, 8 goals, 12 assists, 20 points. Goaltenders, Elliott's been confirmed. He has a .915 save percentage. Carter Hart, who played today, now has a .906 save percentage. On the Montreal side, Max Domi, 25 games, 6 goals, 11 assists, 17 points. Petrie, 25 games, 2 goals, 11 assists, 13 points. Lehkonen, 25 games, 6 goals, 6 assists, 12 points. Armia, 23 games, 8 goals, 5 assists, 13 points. and he's very prominent. And while his points per game isn't fantastic, pretty important forward for Montreal, and he is on pace for about 30 goals. Gallagher, 25 games, 10 goals, 9 assists, 19 points, and Montreal fans will tell you, and rightfully so, about how important Gallagher is to their fortunes. Goaltending, it is alarming that Price is at an .897 save percentage and Kincaid's at an .877. You need goaltending to make the playoffs. You need great goaltending to go anywhere in the playoffs, and right now, the goaltending and the defense in front of it has definitely needed some help. They can't allow 3-on-2s and 2-on-1s tomorrow night the way they did in their last game because Philadelphia will burn them, and regularly. Travis Konechny will eat them for breakfast. He may not be on the board, but believe me, he absolutely would with the numbers they've been putting up lately. Next up, Buffalo and Toronto. They have their rematch tomorrow night. They had their first matchup tonight. That was won in Buffalo 6-4. Buffalo's 12-10-4. Toronto's 12-11-4. You can't get much closer than that. And their next meeting is December 17th, and that one's at Toronto. So these teams are going to get to know each other. They're going to start to really dislike each other. And that's for the best for those of us who love this kind of hockey. Scoring, Yoki Haru, 26 games, 2 goals, 5 assists for him, 7 points. He's fit in very well. VC is picking it up scoring-wise, 23 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. Sam Reinhart, 26 games, 9 goals, 11 assists, 20 points. He really flies under the radar. Mittelstadt, 26 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points for him. Got a goal tonight. We'll see if he heats up. He was pretty good at the start of the year. Olofsson, 26 games, 10 goals, 10 assists, 20 points, and he is heating things up. Ullmark played tonight. He has a .911 save percentage, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say Hutton plays tomorrow night. He has a .903 save percentage. On the Toronto side, Justin Hall, 25 games, 1 goal, 7 assists. There's two ways to look at this. You can look at it and say, well, Toronto doesn't have enough depth on the blue line, that's why Hall's playing a lot. Or you can look at, say, Hall's playing pretty well. I'm a glass half full kind of guy, so I'll say he's playing pretty well, and I'll leave the rest for everybody else to say. Spezza, 17 games, 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points. Riley, 27 games, 3 goals, 17 assists, 20 points. Nylander, 27 games, 9 goals, 12 assists, 21 points. I wish they'd stop writing articles on TSN and Sportsnet about how fantastic Nylander is. Just let him go out there and play. It's sort of like when Freddie Anderson's playing well, he's having a good stretch, and then articles pop up. Is he going to win the Vezina? Would you stop it? Tavares, 20 games played, 9 goals, 9 assists for 18 points for him. Hutchinson, who played tonight, .876 save percentage overall. Anderson will play tomorrow. That's been confirmed. .919 save percentage. So Toronto has to bounce back tomorrow because if Buffalo beats them again, then we're talking about them fading out of the picture again. And all right, so they got this bounce when Keefe came in, but is that bounce over with? And are we going back to this team beating mediocre? And at that point, all of the eyes turned back to Kyle Dubas. So they really kind of need to win this tomorrow. So everybody feels pretty good about Toronto. I do the power rankings. Toronto fans get mad that they're not in the top row. That kind of thing. You know, that just regular, everyday stuff. All right, next up. Capitals in against Detroit. This one, much like the Toronto game, starts at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. Washington's at an intimidating 18-4-5. Detroit is a not intimidating 7-18-3. The next meeting between these teams is March 12th at Washington. This is their first meeting this year. This looks like a trap game. This absolutely, to me, it looks like a trap game. I don't have my Akbar magnet on me. I know I had it earlier, so I'm not gonna put a Meeseeks on it. You guys know what I mean. This to me feels like a trap game. This feels like the kind of game that you look at and you go, yeah, that should be an easy win. That should be a big win for Washington. Let's get into it. Scoring, Vrana, 27 games, 12 goals, 10 assists, 22 points. Eller, 27 games, 6 goals, 8 assists, 14 points for the Caps. Wilson, 27 games, 9 goals, 9 assists, 18 points. He's having a very quiet season. I keep hearing about this player's the dirtiest, that player's the dirtiest, and I haven't heard much about Wilson. So he hasn't really done that much to make people angry yet this year, and he's been scoring pretty well. It's a pretty good year for him. Oshie, 27 games, 10 goals, 8 assists, 18 points. Boyd, 12 games, 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points. Been very useful in a bottom 6 role for the Capitals. Samsonov will be starting tomorrow. He has a .912 save percentage. Holtby has a .909 save percentage, which doesn't explain or doesn't really readily tell you just how well he's been playing lately. On the Detroit front, Hronek, 26 games, 5 goals, 8 assists for him. Helm, 27 games, 4 goals, 2 assists for him. Athanasiou, 26 games, 5 goals, 10 assists, 15 points. Larkin, 28 games, 6 goals, 10 assists, 16 points. Filppula also has played 28 games, 3 goals, 9 assists, and 12 points for him. Goaltending numbers, Pickard, 829 save percentage, Bernier, 893, Howard, 887, none of them at 900. I would think Bernier tomorrow night if he feels all right. Pickard played tonight. I guess you could play Pickard again tomorrow if nobody else feels good. But Detroit, either way, their season's basically done. They've won 7 out of 28 games. They're not going to the playoffs. They are the one team in the league that we can look at and go, no, they'd have to win 11 in a row just to get to 500. And even then, they're not going into the playoffs with a 500 record. So, all right, that being said, I now need to change boards. All right, Carolina. The Hurricanes are in against Tampa tomorrow night. Carolina now 15-10-1 after the loss tonight. The Lightning 12-8-3. And the Lightning are flirting with getting into the playoff picture. These teams have met before. October 6th, Tampa Bay lost in overtime in Carolina 4-3. That's the game where famously Tampa Bay after the first decided not to play anymore. And when I say that, I mean they recorded, what was it, 2 shots in the second period or 1 shot or something along those lines. I think they recorded like 6 shots over the last 2 periods. It was ridiculous. And their next meeting will be January 5th at Carolina. So hopefully tonight or tomorrow night, Tampa Bay shows up and plays really, really well. All of these games start at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. So I'm going to be busy at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Scoring. Carolina, Pesce, 26 games, 3 goals, 6 assists. He flies under the radar. Gardner, 26 games, 1 goal, 5 assists. He's been underwhelming offensively. Has to be disappointed in his start. But they're a deep team on the blue line. Aho, 26 games, 12 goals, 8 assists for 20 points. Stahl, 26 games, 3 goals, 4 assists for 7 points. He isn't closing in on 1,000 like his brother is. He's also not looking like... Well, even by Jordan Stahl's standards, the 7 points in 26 games isn't quite where he'd want it to be. Niederreiter, 26 games, 3 goals, 7 assists. And all I mean by that is that of the 2 Stahl brothers up front, Jordan has never been as offensively dynamic as Eric, but right now it just seems like it's really a slog for him offensively. Goaltending numbers, Mrazek is at a .901 save percentage now. I would imagine they go with Reimer tomorrow night. He's at a .910 save percentage. On the Tampa Bay side, Maroon, 21 games, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points. He's been very useful for them when he's played. Yanni Gourde, 23 games, 6 goals, 8 assists for 14 points. Kucherov, 22 games, 9 goals, 18 assists, 27 points. And what's funny is that he's still on pace for about 98, 100 points. And if you ask people, what kind of start has Kucherov been off to, people would likely say, without seeing that number, well, he's off to kind of a slow start, isn't he? If you compare where his numbers are right now to last year, they're right about the same. Sergachev, 23 games, 3 goals, 10 assists for him. Braden Point, 20 games, 9 goals, 10 assists for him. McElhinney, who likely starts here, .911 save percentage. This is, of course, they're playing against his former team. Vasilevsky, who played tonight, .906 save percentage for him. And for Tampa, this is an important game to get back on track. And for Carolina, they don't want to slip further down in the standings. So we'll see how that turns out for them. Next up, Nashville's in against Florida. Nashville now 12-9-4, and they appear to be turning things around. They did have that not great finish against Vegas the other night, but outside of that, they've been pretty good, and they still got a point out of that game, right? And for Florida, they're 12-8-5. So for Florida, this is kind of an important game too, as Toronto has been showing signs they're going to get better, and Boston looks pretty uncatchable. The Atlantic's an interesting division overall. Anyways, October 19th, these teams met in Nashville. Florida won in a shootout, 3-2. And that this is their last meeting of the year. You only meet twice, those teams from the other conference. Scoring, Kyle Turris, 19 games, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points, and he's been healthy scratch here and there. And there's a lot of speculation that Nashville would like to part ways with him. That contract makes it difficult. Sissons, 25 games, 6 goals, 6 assists for him. Austin Watson, 25 games, 4 goals, 5 assists. Granlund, 25 games, 4 goals, 7 assists. Rocco Grimaldi, 22 games, 2 goals, 10 assists for him. And Grimaldi is an under-the-radar type player, too, that is actually very important in Nashville. Goaltending numbers, Rinne brought his numbers up tonight. He's at 898. Saros is at 891. So the overall numbers are still not fantastic, but they seem to be getting better over the last couple of weeks if you subtract the Vancouver games. Florida's side of things, Yandel, 25 games, 2 goals, 18 assists, 20 points. Might be the quietest 60-plus point season that a defenseman put together in a while. Boyle, 17 games, 4 goals, 4 assists. So Brian Boyle's been very useful for them so far. Trocheck, 18 games, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points. Frankie Vetrano, 25 games, 6 goals, 4 assists, 10 points. All of those goals could be empty netters. Doesn't matter. Hoffman, 25 games, 10 goals, 8 assists, 18 points. I know that at least 3 of them are empty netters. I want to say at least 3 of them. Goaltending, Bobrovsky will be backing up Driedger tomorrow night. Yep, Driedger, who doesn't have stats. Not Montembeault. And Bobrovsky has an .884 save percentage. The Achilles heel of the Florida Panthers this year somehow is goaltending. The problem that they got rid of last year by getting rid of Reimer and by kind of going to Luongo and going, be okay if you're retired. No pressure or anything. You get the feeling that they told him, be alright if you left. We're not planning on using you next year. And that they were going in the Bobrovsky direction, and Montembeault had played his way into the backup role by playing very well down the stretch last year. What a difference a couple of months makes. Alright, moving along. Columbus is in against the Islanders. So Columbus 11-10-4 now, and it feels like they're getting better. And they're in against the Islanders, who at 16-5-2. I don't want to say that they're peaking or they've peaked, but we'll see. October 19th, the Islanders won in Columbus in overtime 3-2. The next meeting these teams have will also be in New York against the Islanders on the 23rd of December. So, be interesting to see how that works. Because Columbus, Wenberg, 25 games, 2 goals, 7 assists overall. Atkinson, 25 games, a disappointing 4 goals, but 10 assists for 14 points. Milano, 23 games, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points. Boone Jenner, 25 games, 6 goals, 3 assists, 9 points. Gavrikov, 24 games, 1 goal, 2 assists for him. In net, Korpisalo played tonight, so I would think Merzlikins goes tomorrow. Korpisalo's got a .902 save percentage, Merzlikins an .890. On the Islanders side of things, Bailey's been quiet, 23 games, 7 goals, 7 assists, 14 points. Beauvillier has not. 23 games, 8 goals, 8 assists, 16 points. Dal Cole, 22 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. Boychuk, 22 games, 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points. And Anders Lee, in 23 games, only the 5 goals, the 5 assists to show for it so far from Anders Lee. So even though they're at 16-5-2 and everything looks great, there are still scorers here like Bailey and Lee that you kind of probably expected more from. Again, Beauvillier, who only has 1 more goal and 1 more assist than Bailey, well, Beauvillier wasn't expected to score more than Bailey, so it's kind of a pleasant surprise there. It's scoring by committee, and really the goaltending makes a big difference. Grace has a .930 save percentage thus far, and Varlamov, .911 save percentage. They have been alternating goaltenders. There's no reason to think that that's going to stop anytime soon. And with them being back home, we'll see if they can get back on the winning streak and if they can start looking dominant again. Columbus, they're on the second half of a back-to-back. Maybe they can take advantage of that. All right, moving along. Ottawa. So for the Senators, coming off of a humiliating 7-2 loss, they're going into Calgary tomorrow night, and this one starts at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern as well, apparently. I'm wondering why. It's a weird start time for a Western game. 11-14-1 now is the record for Ottawa. So for people who are worried Ottawa was winning too much, and there were articles about is Ottawa winning too much, just relax. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to go on a big charge. They're not that good of a team. It's just it's fun to see them winning games every now and then and see them playing well. And they're in against a Calgary team that at 12-12-4, they have to be concerned. This is not technically a trap game because Calgary's been underperforming and they're not that far ahead of Ottawa. The next meeting these teams have will be in Ottawa on January 18th. Logan Brown, 12 games, 1 goal, 5 assists. Connor Brown, 26 games, 2 goals, 13 assists, 15 points. It's interesting that if you double Logan Brown's totals, you'd have 24 games, 2 goals, 10 assists, 12 points. It's close to Connor Brown's. So it's like the two Browns are linked. Ennis, 26 games, 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 points. Tierney, 26 games, 3 goals, 9 assists, 12 points. And Shabbat, 26 games, 3 goals, 12 assists, 15 points for Shabbat. Nilsson had a .917 save percentage after today's game. I think he had a .924 before today's game. Something ridiculous. Hogberg is supposed to start tomorrow. It hasn't been confirmed, but he's supposed to. Anderson at .904 is still out right now. On the Calgary front, Giordano, 28 games, 4 goals, 10 assists for him, 14 points. Backlund, 28 games, 3 goals, 7 assists, 10 points. Johnny Gaudreau, troubling drop for him overall. 28 games, 5 goals, 15 assists, 20 points. Noah Hannafin, 28 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. Jankowski really stands out as a Flame with 25 games and no points this year. I'm just really surprised that a guy who put up 17 goals in a season not that long ago has nothing this year. And I know he hasn't been playing a ton of ice time, but still, you'd think he'd have something. Riddick, .913 save percentage. Talbot, .893. They seem to be leaning on Riddick more and more as the season goes along. We'll see if that continues tomorrow. With Ottawa in town, I wouldn't be surprised if they go with Talbot, but at the time I'm recording this, there's been no confirmation. That being said, I need to change boards. I will not pass out while I'm making this video. I will not. Pittsburgh's in against St. Louis tomorrow night. Pittsburgh coming off of a tough loss, but really, everybody's injured. At this point, we have a roster of Malkin, Hornquist, who knows how healthy Hornquist is at the best of times, and you got a lot of AHLers in there, and you got a lot of guys coming back from injury, and a guy's getting ready for the next injury. It's insane. And they're in against St. Louis, who are 16-5-6, and they're dealing with the injury bug as well. So these teams both need to be wrapped in bubble wrap. The next meeting between these teams will be December 4th at Pittsburgh, so they will have a chance between tomorrow night's game and the one on the 4th to really dislike one another. Scoring, on the Pittsburgh side, Marino's been a story, 24 games, 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 points, and he seems to be getting better as the season goes along. Simone, 26 games, 2 goals, 10 assists for him. Brandon Tanev, 26 games, 5 goals, 8 assists, 13 points. And well, yeah, his contract's pretty rich for what he provides. What he's providing in Pittsburgh is pretty awesome. Lafferty, 19 games, 3 goals, 5 assists. I'm a fan of Lafferty. Aston Reese, 26 games, 4 goals, 3 assists for him. Murray has a .901 save percentage. Jari was jinxed tonight before tonight's game when they talked about how he was leading the league in save percentage, goals against average. His save percentage dipped to .929. Still an excellent save percentage, but he's no longer leading the league. On the St. Louis front, Sanford, 22 games, 3 goals, 6 assists. Robert Thomas, also 22 games, 3 goals, 6 assists. And Thomas, in the wake of everybody being hurt, probably expected to pick up some of that slack. Bozak, 27 games, 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points for him. Barbashev, 27 games, 3 goals, 9 assists, 12 points. He's been hot lately. O'Reilly, 27 games, 6 goals, 18 assists, 24 points. Pretty amazing season for Ryan O'Reilly. He might be even better right now than he was in the regular season last year. Allen now has a .914 save percentage. Are we allowed to say he's back? Bennington a .925. I expect Bennington. I kind of expect Murray tomorrow night too, since Jari played tonight. That's going to be an interesting matchup between two teams that are kind of the walking wounded. And we'll see just how many more walking wounded there are in these teams for tomorrow night's game and then after tomorrow night's game. Because at least on the St. Louis side, they can play a heavy game. All right. San Jose in against Pittsburgh, and with Tanev, so can Pittsburgh. San Jose in against Arizona, and San Jose at 14-12-1 now. Pretty excellent record for San Jose considering how they started. 4-10-1, I believe it was. And for Arizona, 15-8-4. This is their first meeting. Their next meeting is December 17th at San Jose. So these guys are going to start building up a resentment, starting with this game. Marleau, 23 games, 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 points since his return to San Jose. Thornton, 27 games and only 9 assists. And now the fact that he hasn't scored a goal in around 40 games is becoming quite the story. But that's what happens when you get older. It gets tougher and tougher to score points. So you have to be able to do all of the other things in the game. Couture, 27 games, 6 goals, 20 assists, 26 points. And yes, Thornton does a lot of those things. Melker Karlsson, 24 games, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. I've got him on the board because he's the forgotten Karlsson in San Jose. Shimmick, 12 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. Any Sharks fan will tell you how important it is to have him in the lineup. Dell has an .890 save percentage, and check it out. Martin Jones is at .896. He can get there. And Arizona, a team that may struggle to score. They kind of struggled tonight. We'll see, right? Keller, 27 games, 4 goals, 11 assists, 15 points. This has been another down season for him offensively. Dvorak, 27 games, 8 goals, 7 assists, 15 points. Hinostroza, 27 games, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points. That total overall has been disappointing. The weird thing is these are disappointing totals, and yet look at their record because the defense and the goaltending are fantastic. Richardson, 20 games, 2 assists. Fisher, 26 games, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points. It's remarkable because Richardson was the one member of Arizona that looked like he might score 20 last year, and now he might not score any. Goaltending, Ronta, 926. Of course, he wasn't the backup tonight. Comrie was, due to illness. Kemper, 935 save percentage. I would think they'd go with Kemper again tomorrow night if Ronta can't go. Maybe you give Comrie a start, but against San Jose with the way they've been playing lately, that might be playing with fire. So I still find it weird that they picked up Comrie. It's bizarre to me because he's only been dressed as the backup now that one time this year. So it's really, really strange that they picked up a backup that they have no intention of using as a backup. He's just the number 3. They don't want to waive him because then he can end up getting reclaimed. So they'll just keep him around. I don't know. It's odd. All right, next up. Chicago is in Colorado. So the bad news for Chicago is they're in Colorado. The good news is they're in Colorado. So it's the bad news because Colorado beat them tonight 5-2. It's good news because they can go in and get their revenge game in Colorado tomorrow. Chicago's now 10-10-5. Colorado's 15-8-2. The next meeting between these teams will be December 18th in Chicago. So these teams are going to get to know each other pretty darn well over the next few weeks, starting with tonight's game into tomorrow's, and then the one on the 18th. Mata, on the Chicago scoring side, 25 games, 1 goal, 6 assists. Jonathan Taves, 25 games, 4 goals, 9 assists for him. Gustafsson, 24 games, 3 goals, 5 assists for him. Shaw, 25 games, 3 goals, 7 assists for him. And Nylander, 24 games, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points. If they're going to win over Colorado, these are the guys that need to get on the board. These 4 right here. Not as much Mata, but if these 4 can get on the board, Gustafsson's a guy who had a lot of points last year if he can start going again. Leonard at a 938 save percentage. He'll start tomorrow because Crawford allowed 5 tonight. He's down to a 913 save percentage. On the Colorado side, Jost, 22 games, 4 goals, 4 assists for him. Comfort, 22 games, 3 goals, 11 assists for him. Donskoy, 25 games, 9 goals, 9 assists, 18 points for him. And Rantanen, who I believe is supposed to be back tomorrow night, correct? 9 games, 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points. And if Colorado starts getting healthy, Lord help the West. Cole, 20 games and 9 assists overall. Grubauer, 912 save percentage. I would expect him to play since Francouz played tonight. He's got a 924 save percentage. This is a big game if you're Chicago. Again, 10-10-5, 25 points, 25 games, 500 record. The West, we're likely going to see a mediocre team make the playoffs, but if they fall below 500 and if they flirt with that number, if you're the general manager, you may consider moving people because you may look and say, you know what, we might be able to eke our way into the playoffs, but we might be better off looking at our future. And so Chicago to me is one of those teams. Are they going to say we have to go for this because we've got guys like Crawford, Kane, almost dropped it, Crawford, Kane, Taves, Keith, who are either older or getting there, and so we've got to kind of try to push this together and make it work again. That's the reason you'd bring back an Andrew Shaw. Or do you look and say, you know what, maybe we trade guys out and try to get younger, and we'll see where, sort of like the Strome deal, kind of, sort of. So we'll see what they do, and I think their record over the next few weeks is going to tell us where Stan Bowman may end up heading with things. So depending on how you feel about Chicago and whether or not you want to see them go through a retool sort of like the Rangers have, we may see in the next few weeks whether that's likely. All right, Winnipeg. Winnipeg's had an amazing road trip, and tomorrow night they're in against the Kings. Winnipeg's 16-9-1 now. Yeah, that's a pretty good record. Really good record, actually. They're in against the Kings, who are 10-14-2. The last time these teams met was October 22nd. The Kings went into Winnipeg and beat them 3-2, so Winnipeg's going for some measure of revenge. Tomorrow night, that's coming off of a shutout victory against Anaheim and a victory against San Jose, and both games they made it look kind of easy. Their next meeting will be February 18th at Winnipeg. So this is the second of 3 meetings between these two teams. Lucas Biza, 14 games, 1 goal, 2 assists for Winnipeg. He's honestly been a nice stabilizing influence on that blue line. Andrew Kopp, 26 games, 4 goals, 7 assists, giving them some decent depth scoring. Nick Ehlers, 26 games, 12 goals, 7 assists, 19 points. I cannot praise this kid enough. Luoto, who is absolutely snake-bit. He has no points in 10 games, but every game he gets around the net, he has a shot that looks like it might go in. He might get an assist on this. He might get a goal there. Eventually, something's going to happen, and he's going to break that goose egg. Perreault, 26 games, 6 goals, 3 assists. Has not been as prominent as I had expected before the season started. Brossoit has an .876 save percentage. This is the best place to put him in there. He's in against the Kings. .933 save percentage for Hellebuck overall this season. He's been amazing. You could play him in back-to-backs, especially since I said Brossoit, it is the Kings, but the Kings at home are a different beast than on the road. And that 10-14-2 record, they know how deadly that is. There's nobody in that Kings dressing room that's taking this lightly. They need to get hot, and they need to get hot now. Kempe, 25 games, 3 goals, 6 assists, 9 points. He needs to get it going offensively. Hutton, 26 games, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points. I think he's been overplayed at times this year by the Kings. Brown, 26 games, 6 goals, 8 assists, 14 points for Dustin. Tyler Toffoli, 25 games, 6 goals, 6 assists for him. He may very well be available for trade soon. And Lizotte, 26 games, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points. Having a pretty solid season for those who aren't watching the Kings. Quick has an .882 save percentage. Campbell has an .886. Neither of those are anything to write home about, even though I swear, Quick has been playing better the last few weeks. The numbers don't necessarily bear it out overall, but he has been playing better. All right, that being said, I need to change boards one last time. All right, last game of tomorrow night starts at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, and that is the Vancouver Canucks in against the Edmonton Oilers. Vancouver's 12-10-4, and now they play the Oilers, so you go from a game against Pittsburgh where you blew a lead and you allowed a lot of goals, and now you're playing against a team that can score a lot of goals. I didn't put Draisaitl and McDavid on the board because I don't really need to. We know what Draisaitl and McDavid are capable of, and at 16-8-3, we know what the Oilers are capable of. These teams played October 2nd. That was opening night for Vancouver. Vancouver lost that game 3-2 in Edmonton. The next game they play will be Sunday in Vancouver. So this is the start of a home-and-home between these two teams. Levo for Vancouver, 26 games, 2 goals, 10 assists, 12 points. And as I say every time I talk about Levo, thank you, Toronto, for a player who is an everyday player for Vancouver, works his backside off every single game. And, he's a very useful bottom six forward who can fill in top six every now and then. Virtanen, 26 games, 7 goals, 4 assists, 11 points. And for all the jokes that people make about Virtanen and the Canucks drafting him, he's on pace for 20 goals. Louis Eriksson, 14 games, nothing. That contract doesn't look any better. Tim Schaller, 26 games, 4 goals, 0 assists. He started off pretty hot. He had some goals there, and it's just fallen off the radar for him. Gaudette, 16 games, 6 goals, 4 assists, 10 points, making an excellent case for himself to stay in the lineup no matter what happens with Antoine Roussel, Dominic Roussel, or any other Roussel you want to throw in there. Markstrom, 913 save percentage, Demko, 907 overall. The goaltending numbers have been down, and they I will say this, Demko I think needs to be better. Markstrom, I can totally understand why his numbers are down. I'm going to say nothing about it because I get it. On the Oilers side, Chris Russell, 27 games, 4 assists. Patrick Russell, 22 games and 4 assists. So there you go. Not only did they not specify which Russell is which, but when you look at the stats sheet, they're virtually identical. It's obnoxious. Cassian, 27 games, 8 goals, 10 assists, 18 points. He is that winger who can play with Draisaitl and McDavid. We'll see how that goes for him tomorrow night. Ethan Bear, 27 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. And if you ask Oilers fans, he should be Rookie of the Year. He's the greatest defenseman ever. He's a very capable defensive defenseman, and advanced stats love him. But as long as Cale Makar is scoring more than a point a game, it's Makar's trophy to win. And the Vancouver Canucks have Quinn Hughes, who in 25 games has 21 points. He's not a slouch either. Gaetan Haas, 19 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. He has been getting better. So while the stats may not show it, He has been getting better as the season has gone along. And as he plays better, Tippett gives him more ice time. That's how it's supposed to work. Koskinen, 920 save percentage. Smith, 911 save percentage. Vancouver needs to be careful because if they don't play well against Edmonton over the next 48 hours, they're going to come out 12-12-4, and they're going to be in some serious trouble. Because here's the playoff picture right now. So we've talked about the American Thanksgiving and how it's important. If you think it's important, great. If you don't, that's fine. I didn't do a video on it yesterday because I thought, you know what, I've done that video before. And last year, it didn't matter a lot. For instance, Minnesota was in the playoffs, looked pretty good last year at Thanksgiving, and it just fell apart for them. So right now, the matchups would be this. Washington and Pittsburgh. Really? We're going to get Washington having a fantastic season in the first round. They meet Pittsburgh. Oh, boy. The Islanders and Philadelphia, that would be a great series. Boston and Carolina, which would also be a great rematch from last year. Florida and Buffalo. Who had those guys meeting in the playoffs? Yes, Buffalo with that win over Toronto tonight is in the playoffs. In the hunt, I have Toronto, Tampa, the Rangers, and Montreal in that order. That's the order of the standings. And it shows just how tightly bunched all of these teams in the East really are. Montreal is not that far behind Buffalo, but we're now seeing it where they have two teams in their own division to jump over, three including Buffalo to get into a playoff spot, and getting that second wild card is tough because right now the Metro has, for the most part, better records than the teams in the Atlantic. Now on the Western side, St. Louis would play San Jose. That'd be an amazing series again. Winnipeg would play Colorado. It'd be a very open, high-scoring series in all likelihood. Edmonton and Dallas, that would scare me as a fan of Dallas because I think Edmonton would wipe them out with the way things are going right now. And I say this because Edmonton has that explosive offense, and Dallas really doesn't. Arizona and Vegas, well, we've seen that these teams can play very well against one another. They're very evenly matched, so that would be a fun matchup. In the hunt, Vancouver's currently out of the playoffs. Calgary's currently out of the playoffs. And Nashville is creeping their way back into the picture and have games in hand, I do believe, on some of those teams ahead of them. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts and your winners and all that wonderful stuff in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. It's crazy late, and I've managed to keep my eyes open and stay awake for this, so I consider that a victory. Thank you guys so much for staying up. I will talk to you again soon.